Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Julia here. You're the CEO of Eventbrite, and you've built this incredible company up, with years and years of hard work that has, I think, transformed a lot of people's lives in an age where connection is missing. I mean, I've used Eventbrite, I think, pretty much every week for the last 2, 3 years to find events in my area, in Miami and in Palm Beach. I mean, I've found some really amazing events. I know a lot of other people have really found community through Eventbrite. So there's a great purpose that you're solving. We need this in-person social network, I guess is one way to put it today. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you, Ben.
Awesome. So Julia, just kind of going back to like your origin story. Like were you always somebody who wanted to be entrepreneurial? Did you think about building businesses before? Like how did your passion for doing something of your own, kind of going after your destiny happen?
I was not entrepreneurial growing up. I did not have the lemonade stand. I wasn't, trying to make a buck. I was really good at following directions as a
Mhm.
competitive dancer, and then also, kind of trading on the growth mindset of always improving. And I started working at 14. I was a barista at a coffee shop called the Ugly Mug. And
Mm.
I learned and put into action, a really strong work ethic. And so I am a different kind of business leader who I think, didn't fit the mold of a serial entrepreneur. But I met a serial entrepreneur at a wedding when I was 23, and that changed my life.
Mhm. So you weren't thinking about starting any type of business, but then there was this influence that came into the picture. But what about events? Like, were you somebody that loved going to events? Is that something you always did?
I was a performer growing up, and so having that type of connection with audiences and with the arts was just ingrained in who I was. Uh, I don't dance much now, but I started dancing when I was about 4 years old, and so performing and being a part of the arts, that
Hmm.
laid the foundation. Later in life, after I graduated college, I was working in television development and really understanding the relationship between audiences and stories and micro communities. And I'm going to totally date myself, but part of the marketing campaign for a show like The Shield or Rescue Me, or
Hmm.
yes, I worked on Jackass, was all around, creating a connection between the storyline, the characters, and the audience. And so part of my job in the development department was to hear a lot of pitches of great ideas, go research them, and then decide if we wanted to invest in them as a network. And, having worked at MTV and then at FX Networks, it was just an incredible opportunity. But through the course of that, sort of like being a VC for television, through the course of that career, I started to learn more about fandoms. I started to learn more about IRL gatherings where people were taking their passions from media and bringing them into their lives, and the palpable energy exchange that would happen at those events. And that was really where I started to develop this curiosity that then turned into a lifelong passion around gatherings and live events.
So you did really start going to a lot of different things within your community, but did you realize like there could be, I think, like a network almost out there that anyone can kind of host events like you, because you're only finding out if you know somebody that knows somebody, you kind of it's through a network of
Yeah.
people, but like this is all about bringing new people into your community. Like that's what I loved about Eventbrite. When did you start to realize it could be much bigger than just the typical event scene?
Well, so Kevin was the guy I met at 23 at a wedding.
Hmm.
My boss, my first boss from MTV, married his classmate from college, and we sat next to each other during the ceremony, and fell in love. And through the course of our relationship in the first 2 years, I was a fly on the wall for
Hmm.
everything he was doing, working on his second startup, which was international money transfer for immigrants to send money back to their families better, faster, cheaper than Western Union. And so
Hmm.
steeped in that is this pretty massive micro transactional platform, and also the idea of democratizing an industry where there's just a really old, you know, um, not very accessible, expensive incumbent. And so when we came together to work on Eventbrite, Kevin's passion for that idea that tech could enable and democratize something that was out of reach prior to that time, coupled with my curiosity around gatherings and in real life
Hmm.
energy exchanges and, and fandoms, started to culminate around this idea. And so when we found Renault, our third co-founder, who was by day an engineer and by night a prolific photographer, who was also uh, really interested in how you could help people turn their passions into profit. We put all three of those pieces together in a puzzle, and Eventbrite was born, right? So we all came at it through these different lenses. And I would say that, you know, I learned pretty quickly on that I love to learn by doing. I
Hmm.
can take any idea and make it a reality. And that was my superpower. And so we were great partners in starting the company. And certainly all three of us had complementary skill sets. And I think often that's overlooked in the beginning of
Hmm.
starting an idea or building a product or building a company, is that you're much, much better off if you have very little overlap in your superpowers than if you all are really great at the same thing and very weak at the same thing.
Huh, that's interesting. So you guys all meshed. It was a very nice environment building. But what was it like, Julia, building something with somebody that you loved at the time? I mean, you got to kind of separate the work and then, just your personal life. I mean, usually people talk about that balance, but what was that like for you, building something with Kevin?
We were definitely going against the grain. There were not a lot of great examples for us to follow during that time in, 2006, which is interesting because I think that the foundation of this country is built on family-led businesses. And
Hmm.
certainly today you see so much more support and momentum around that. But at the time we were really an N of one or two.
Hmm.
And I think you know, what I'd say, the words I would use to describe what it's like to build a startup with the person you love is convenient. So it's like a 24/7 adventure and you can always talk about your company, your customer, your
Hmm.
business. And that really worked to our advantage. B, it was exciting to be working on something together. And again, because we had those complementary skill sets, still do, it's easier for us to divide and conquer and not
Hmm.
get caught in any sort of like unnecessary, fighting over the mouse. Um, the third thing was that it was just all encompassing in a good way. So we actually started Eventbrite, got married, and then had our first baby all within the first 2 years. And I
Mm.
think that was just it
A
was
lot of
very full.
changes.
Yeah, a lot of changes, but also seemed very normal to us because we were doing it all at the same time. And, it made life really exciting and full, and our kids were there for the ride. And so, I think
Hmm.
that's really something that's I'm very grateful for, that I actually think when people try to overthink it, they miss the beauty and the magic in that.
Hmm.
Um and so I'm grateful that we had that experience.
Were there any like really tough times during that point where like you needed like kind of a boundary between you guys? Because like you could talk about work during the day, you could talk about it at night, but like sometimes work can get stressful. Like how did you have to put any boundaries in place, or was it just like really easy for you?
For us, it was easier to be always on, still is. Eventbrite
Hmm.
felt and still does feel like our first family member. So, we're always game to talk about the company like we are our human children. But the way that we handled disagreements was we had a playbook of sorts. And
Hmm.
basically the playbook went like this. If we got to a place of being in like a disagreement that got heated and that would otherwise make somebody else uncomfortable,
Yeah.
we would turn out the lights in our we were in a conference room at the beginning, so we'd turn out the lights,
Hmm.
lie on the ground and hold hands and talk about it. And by the time we were like on the ground holding hands and everyone else who worked with us in the shared space could see what was going on, and there's like no way that we could still be angry. So it was a surefire way to
Hmm.
de-escalate said escalation. And I highly recommend it for any co-founding team. And the thing I would say is, like, lots has been written and shown about, maybe more famous cases of couples that have worked on businesses together where it's
Yeah.
been a disaster personally and professionally. I think that, like, if you take the romantic element out of it, I do
Mm,
think that co-founding teams form a sort of informal chosen family. I mean,
mm,
your future and your destiny is inextricably tied to one another for that period
yeah.
of time. And so finding people that you can trust and build that relationship with and build that foundation with, I mean, that's pretty magical. And so I just think I sometimes try to apply it to all sorts of co-founding
Yeah.
teams and think about the best teams that I've known, whether it was, I mean, I'll pick the famous ones, Bryant, Nate, and Joe from Airbnb,
Yeah.
and like just thinking about what they had and how they leaned into one another during those
Hmm.
formative years where people just aren't looking. And like, it's really, those are the years that really matter.
Yeah. No, I think that's some good advice, and just like the complementary skill set piece of it, but then also just taking time away from what you're doing to recalibrate. I think that's really
Yeah.
great. Just kind of shifting back to like the Eventbrite story a little bit more in the business itself. You built up a really incredible platform, Julia, but a platform, requires kind of two different sides. You have to actually build something that, is useful for people, but you have to get the people onto it, right? How did you go and get the events? How did you get people aware that there was this platform for events? I mean, you could probably, I think there was some advertising, maybe online advertising you could do, but what went even into that? I mean, there's tons of events that had to find you.
Yeah, I mean, we really approached it from the supply side. We knew that we wanted to build a product that would allow anyone to be able to do what they wanted to do, to gather a
Hmm.
community, to sell tickets to any kind of event, better, faster, more effective than what was out there. We knew that there was a gap in the market in terms of technology and product that was self-service, that would be as easy to use as Gmail was our first reference point. And we wanted to be completely category agnostic. We wanted to be
Hmm.
able to ticket any kind of event anywhere in the world. And so that set the North Star for us. And our mission is to bring people together through live
Hmm.
experiences. And so we built that platform and set of tools for our creators first and foremost. And the first job that they needed to be done was helping to find more people to come to their events. The thing that people don't know about Eventbrite is, there's 4 million creators that have used Eventbrite to sell 2 billion tickets.
Wow.
And for the most part, Eventbrite actually doesn't birth event creators. They actually come to the platform already with an idea of what they're going to host and a community,
Interesting.
oftentimes with an event that they had already hosted and realized they needed help, keeping track of the tickets, collecting money, tracking and cultivating a relationship with their attendees. And so Eventbrite's job is to remove all friction and to help them achieve their goals and really unlock their superpower. And for event creators, their superpower is in how they tell the story, how they connect that story
Mhm.
to a community, how they constantly think of new ways to engage that community in delightful experiences. And so we have always firmly known where our place is to enable that, right? And so one of the first jobs we done was help me market my event better. And so we really started to think about how do we make event listings the,
Mhm.
highest ranked organic results in Google? How do we help people upload great looking images, video? How do we help them um, you know, uh, be able to launch a really successful paid social advertising campaign that has a return on advertising that is much bigger than if they just DIY'd it on the platforms themselves. So we're always thinking through a lens that says,
Mhm.
how will this help the creator? But through all of those iterations and focusing on that, we got to a place where today, 40% of the tickets that flow through Eventbrite are actually driven by our efforts, by putting the
Mm.
right event in front of the right person at the right time. By the way, wherever they are, it doesn't have to
40%.
be Eventbrite's properties, 40%. Now,
Wow.
that means 60% comes from the creator themselves, which is really valuable. We want to make them more successful in driving those
Mhm.
tickets. We want them to be able to, every dollar that they spend in marketing, we want that to be driving a transaction for them. So it's an interesting two-sided marketplace where we
Mhm.
firmly run the strategy through the supply side first, but with our first job to be done on the demand side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. How do you think about like curating local events? Because one of the things that I like to use Eventbrite for is finding events in Miami. And there's a lot that happens in Miami now. There's been a lot of
Yeah.
changes. So many, this is influx of so many talented people in the tech space. And there's always like just interesting community events. Like, how do you prioritize local and understanding somebody who your user is and giving events for them?
You know, we think about selection and curation at a personal level, and it's a hard
Hmm.
problem to solve for because we're not selling a physical good that has a SKU. And events are ephemeral in nature. So once they happen, they literally never happen again in that exact same place, time, audience.
Hmm.
Um, they're not only irreplaceable, but they're very difficult to replicate. So you have this kind of multivariate problem, which is, what kind of event do I want to attend? What do I want to feel when I go to this event? Where am I in the world? Am I
Hmm.
available? Who else is going to that event? Are they available? Can I afford the event? Can I trust the event? Those are just some of the variables that we're solving for with event discovery. So when we say put the right event in front of the right person at the right time, wherever they are, it's like, it's we aim to succeed by putting very few events in front of them that hit closest to the bullseye versus the kitchen
Hmm.
sink problem, which is like, here's everything happening in your local city. Good luck. I think we're closer to figuring it out now than ever, and I think certainly with the advent of conversational and generative AI and the underlying models we have to help connect those dots faster, I'm really excited about the specificity that we're able to achieve. And I think we will only get better and better at that. And I think Eventbrite has an unfair advantage because we do ticket so many different types of events. We have this vast array of connection to attendees all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, I found it's gotten much better over the years since I've used Eventbrite. Like now I find really
Good.
good recommended events, some of which I never would have
I
searched up before.
I wasn't sure what you were going to say. So I'm very happy to hear it's working for you.
Yeah, it is. Um, you had this time period, Julia, during COVID, which, I mean, you're in the events business, let's say, so you've got in-person, a majority of the platform I would think is in-person events. You had to pivot, I think, to a lot of virtual stuff, virtual events. What was that whole experience like during COVID? How did you manage during COVID, and what was it like coming out of it?
I think COVID was a huge opportunity for Eventbrite, certainly a massive crisis, but it was an opportunity for us to step up and help our customers and
Hmm.
to show how adaptable we could be. And, in the darkest days of COVID, where it was, you're kind of feeling around the dark room, and most things are instinctual. Um, I was really driven by North Star, which was essentially, given what we know about this business and our customers, what would we do if we could do it all over again? And this idea of having a blank sheet and almost inverting the problem, because we were the tip of the spear. So we could see that COVID was going to massively impact our customers' businesses and in
Right.
turn our business. And in fact, after 14 years of building Eventbrite, it was virtually gone in 14 days. I mean,
Mm.
and what I mean by that is, in the first 2 weeks of COVID's impact, we were processing more refunds than revenue because more events were canceling than people were
Ugh.
buying tickets, right? There was that period of time where all gathering ceased to exist. So what we did was really focus on the segment of creators who are going to be the first to come back, take a bet on them, throw our roadmap away, and just focus on whatever they needed. And at first, that was, they needed a really fast and easy way to send refunds or offer credits for future events. Then they needed a way to gather their communities online for virtual
Mhm.
events. Then they needed a way to be flexible for scheduling those in-person events and to, build a relationship with their communities and build that trust. And so on and so forth. We really just like put one foot in front of the other. And the second thing that we did was we assumed it was going to be very bad. We didn't wait. And so we had a sort of first mover advantage in all of the very difficult decisions and moves we had to make to ensure that Eventbrite would be there, when all was finally sorted out. And that was a very long process in terms of, we forget, at least I have very convenient amnesia, but there were several waves of COVID that were massively impactful to our business. And I do remember when we were having conversations in the very early days, most investors thought we were being very dramatic about the length of time it would go on. And I think, we maybe did like a quick check, and we were more right than wrong. But that's just because we didn't try to imagine a world where it wasn't going to be terrible.
Did
I don't
online
know what the
events?
lesson is there.
No, I think it's just adaptability. There was a lot of adaptability, and
Yeah.
you kind of
Prepare for
expected
the
the
worst.
worst.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you prepared like way more than maybe most companies did.
Yeah. We did.
Yeah. Did online like virtual revenue like ever rival in person, or was it just kind of enough to get by?
There was a period of time, I would say the mid 2020 to late 2020, where 87% of our business was for virtual events.
Hmm.
And it
And
was
it was
interesting. I mean, I think that the opportunity there was twofold. One, continuity for communities to stay, in touch and to help each other through such
mm,
a unprecedented, I do not miss that word, crisis. And two was that some creators found that they were able to actually grow their business and grow it more globally. So, a good
mhm,
example is Daybreaker and Radha Agarwal and what her team did there, where they host these early morning raves, and um, they took that format and turned it into a Saturday morning. I call it a Saturday morning service, but this like 2 hour, fully inclusive, fully global, people all over the world joining with their kids, this huge dance party and like message of positivity.
mhm.
And I mean, they went from like 2,000 people on a rooftop to 150,000 people around the world. It was this massive simulcast. So I think there was also opportunity there, and that carried forth, right? That they have a platform now that is fully global, and they didn't have that
Mm,
before. And I think, out of the crisis came that great opportunity.
yeah. So that's one of your favorite events, you would say, on Eventbrite. Like, what are some of the others?
Oh, I can't. I mean, all God's events are my favorite events, but I definitely point to them as a example of a category creator. So,
Mhm,
someone who created a category, and certainly a trendsetter. Soft clubbing is we mine the data on Eventbrite of what people want to do, and then we give it cute names. So soft clubbing is a culture drop, if you will, of non-alcohol related clubbing events. So
uh,
coffee clubbing, run clubbing, sauna clubbing, early morning dance raves. These are all examples of this trend, and we're seeing
mm,
these events just grow exponentially. Um, and I think, like, you know, for us, it's time and time again, the way that people gather is so interesting. I mean, if events mirror sort of society,
mm,
Eventbrite is that landscape of what people want to do and how they want to be spending their time. And so that connection between the two, I don't know. I don't know why it never ceases to amaze me, but I think it's so phenomenal and ever present. So when we started to see this, like, the shift to virtual, and then like almost like this like rubber band snap back to in person, it gave us the confidence to know that, live gatherings here to stay, and we need to just keep doing what we do well, which is enabling creators to do these things great. So there's probably a new favorite event that I have, to go back
mm.
to the question, every week.
That's good.
That just is, it just kind of, I love it. I love all the granny core stuff that's happening right now, the mahjong tournaments and the silent book clubs where people are reading
Mm.
books silently together. Um, you know, it's all the fandom events. I mean, Love Island watch parties are up 4,000% year over year. Again, like if it's a passion, people will gather.
Mhm. There's so many different types of events you just mentioned that I've never even seen or heard of. It's wild.
Yeah, and so many bad great ideas. So like rental car rally, there was like you know, like a gumball rally but with beat up rental cars. There was a running series where you ran a mile and then had to chug a beer and then you know, it's just like it's just terrible amazing ideas.
Those are great. So just the last question I have, like, what do you aspire to do now as a leader, with Eventbrite, but also just what's your kind of vision for yourself as an entrepreneur? You've done a lot already. You've built an amazing platform. A lot of people have had great experiences through Eventbrite. What's kind of the future? What does the future look like? What's next?
You know, for me personally, I'm sure this is going to shock you, but I'm extraordinarily excited to apply more AI to what we do for and with creators. I want
Hmm.
creators to be able to come to Eventbrite with their great idea and their great community and be able to grow exponentially. And I think
Hmm.
that what we've learned about our customers is that they want to be in dialogue. They don't want something to be done magically for them. They're builders, they're creators. That's what they do. So enabling them to make decisions better, faster, more effective is something that I leap out of bed to do every
Hmm.
day, and to help people build their businesses and their platforms is just about the best work you could imagine doing. And then on the other side, I'm excited to finally once and for all solve event discovery. What should I do on a Thursday night? And maybe even go to the next frontier of
Hmm.
who's available and how do I coordinate my schedule with them
Hmm.
without actually having to do a lot of work? And, you know, making our lives more multidimensional,
Hmm.
breaking down the barriers of social connection, living a fuller life, um, being in a space more often where indelible memories are made. I mean, I think it's just about the best work you can imagine. So, uh, I am really enjoying the journey and really enjoying what we get to work on. And I think that we can do it even better at greater scale. And I love the fact that our hard work, not only does it create economic benefit, but it's also
Hmm.
really good for humanity. And that helps me sleep at night
Yeah,
and
it
wake up.
definitely is.
All the cycles.
Well, Julia, thanks for coming on and doing this. I think it's really amazing what you built. And, I'm not just saying that because I think the platform is great. I use it all the time, and I'll probably wind up using it later today. I found a lot of cool events. I've met people I may not have met without it. And I just hope that more people use Eventbrite and they have these great experiences. And now with the discovery you're talking about, making that better, I think it's just going to lead to a lot more cool opportunities of great personal, yeah, just great times and good, in-person engagement with others, which is what we need. We need more community. So I'm excited to see what you'll do next and how you'll continue to build Eventbrite further. And thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.